good afternoon all of you. Today is discussing about methods for conservations. Methods for conservation. Methods for the conservation of biodiversity. Methods for conservation of biodiversity. So methods for mainly the conservation is mainly two types. Conservation of biodiversity is the mainly two types. So first one is the in situ conservation. And second one, ex situ conservation. Ex situ conservation. So in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. So in situ conservation is on-site conservation. So this is off-site. Off-site conservation. Okay, on-site and off-site. Off. Okay, so mainly the conservation of biodiversity is mainly two types. So first one is the in situ conservation and second one is the ex situ conservation. So what is the conservation? What is the conservation? So conservation is the protecting of organisms. Protecting of organism in human care. In human care. Okay, protection of organisms in human care is also called the conservations. Okay, so mainly in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. These are the mainly two types of the conservations of biodiversity. So first one is the in situ conservation. First one is in situ conservation. The process of protecting animals. Process of protecting animals animals of species in its habit or habitat. The process of protecting of animals or species in its habit or habitats. So what is a habitat? Habit and habitat. So food habit. So habits are food habit and other characters. And habitats are place. Okay, so the process of protecting of animals or species in habit or habitat. So that is called the in situ conservation. So they maintain recovering populations of. So we are also observed our conservation sites. For example, recovering populations. Recovering populations are endangered species. Recovering populations are endangered species also maintain the conservations of biodiversity. So recovering populations and threatened species also collected recovering populations and threatened species also collected and they maintain and develop, they maintain and develop its distinctive properties. Distinctive properties. Okay, so recovering populations are endangered species or threatened species. Endangered species, recovering population and threatened species also connected. They maintain and develop their its distinctive properties. It's have the food, shelter, and etc. Also supply, also the supply to animals. Okay, so what is a conservation site? What is a conservation site? So recovering populations, threatened species and endangered species. Endangered species also connected, and they maintain and develop its distinctive properties. It's like a food, shelter, etc. So they supply to animals, recovering organisms. Supply to animals are recovering populations. So that is called the conservation site. And conservationists are identified. The conservationists are identified as a site. A particular name is biodiversity. Biodiversity of organisms called hotspots. Biodiversity hotspots. Hotspots. The particular name is the hotspots. Biodiversity hotspots. Okay, the conservationists are identified particular conservation site name is identified as a hotspots. So that is the biodiversity hotspots. Biodiversity hotspots. Okay, so it is also defined by, it is a biogeographic region. It is the biogeographic region. It is the biogeographic region. Biodiversity hotspot is the biogeographic region. So biogeographic region. And next, it is also protected by human care. It is also protected by humans. It is also protected by humans. And next, threatened species also protected by human care. It is also called the biodiversity hotspots. And extinct species also protected by extinct species. Extinct species also protected by the biodiversity hotspots. Biodiversity hotspot. Okay, biodiversity hotspots. Extinct species also identified by the human care. It is also called the biodiversity hotspots. And next one, and these biodiversity hotspots are identified as the richest, richest, most threatened, richest and most threatened, richest and most threatened species also present in the hotspots. The richest, most threatened ecoregions also. Ecoregions. Okay, so main the conservation of sites. It is also contained the in situ conservation. So particularly the recovering populations, The recovering populations, threatened species, extincted species also identified as the protected from the human care and protected as a hotspots. So that is the biodiversity hotspots. It is also protected by the human care. Protected by the human care. So the biodiversity hotspots is a biogeographic regions and it is the most Earth's richest, most threatened ecoregion. Okay, most threatened ecoregion. It is also identified by Norman Mayers. Biodiversity hotspots also identified by Norman Mayers. Norman Mayers. Okay, Norman Mayers. So mainly the biodiversity hotspots are mainly 34. 34 biodiversity hotspots are present in India. Biodiversity hotspots. Biodiversity hotspots are mainly 34 categorized. So the mainly sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves, biosphere reserves, reservoirs, sanctuaries, biosphere reservoirs. Third one, national parks. National parks. So these are the main structures of the biodiversity hotspots. So biosphere reserves, so these are 14 and sanctuaries are 448 and national parks are 19. So mainly the biodiversity hotspots are 34. So 448 are sanctuaries and biosphere reserves are 14 and national parks are 19. Sorry, 34. And next, so mainly national parks are 19. And biosphere reserves mainly in India has a 17th reservoir. 17th biosphere reservoir is in India is Seshachala Hills. Seshachala Hills. So it is the 17th reservoir of biosphere reservoir of India. So that is the Seshachala Hills. And national parks. So national parks are 90. So for example, Jim Hobart National Park, Kasu Brahmananda Reddy National Park, Kaziranga National Park, Mahavir National Park, so etc. etc. So these are the main national parks. And next sanctuaries. So endangered species are present in the sanctuaries. Endangered species also present in the. All of you know that the sanctuary is the Kuringa Sanctuary. So Kuringa Sanctuary is the Korangi. Okay, Kuringa Sanctuary. All of you know that Kuringa Sanctuary is the Korangi. It is the best example of the Indian sanctuaries.